What is crack-a-lackin', fellow thermonuclear AFers? I am Dan Favale, coming at you, as always, with my certified fantabulous thermonuclear AF co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes Esquire. We are coming at you with the third installment of our positional rankings. Yes, positions, are they irrelevant? Yada, yada, yada. This was a fun exercise for us post-trade deadline. So we have our top 10 small forwards. Go check out point guards and shooting guards. Power forwards and centers are coming. This will be probably published over the course of like 2 weeks, I think. I don't know how I'm going to distribute it, but go check out point guards and shooting guards. And now you can check out small forwards, and then power forwards and centers are to come. How exciting is that? Grant, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am concerned about the chaos that may ensue as we do small forward, because that's a tricky position, but good content, right? If we disagree or we have wonky lists, I think that's a positive.
Just a fair warning. I'm updating the on-screen for anyone's watching. It's going to take me longer than normal to get the names out for small forwards because I have these looped into blocks of players in the 2, 3, and 4. And like, that's where this list is going to be populated from. So I have way too many tabs open. And at this point, like, you might have a point guard on here. That's like my point. So it's going to take me a little while to find the names and paste it on, but we will be talking about it. Who is your number one? I honestly have no idea. Like, I have no idea where this is going to go. Who's your number one small forward?
So my number one small forward is Kawhi Leonard. That's what I was talking about when I said he just any reasonable mind could say he's a 4. What are you doing? But I'm leaving him at small forward. Basketball Reference has like 60 some odd % of his minutes there. I don't think he has problems guarding threes. So I would say you can at least make the case that he's a 3. I hesitate to say he's in a tier by himself because certainly the next guy is like an all NBA superstar, as is number 3, as is number 4 here. But he's just been better Kawhi has just been better than like really almost anybody for like a solid 6 weeks, has just been so good on both ends, is defending a little bit more like he defended 4 or 5 years ago, is making every floater he takes all of a sudden. And it's just like so rock solid. His advanced metrics case is ironclad, airtight over anyone else that I'm going to talk about for this position. So that helps too. I have him 1. I'll just give you 2, 3, just, I don't know, just for some context. Jason Tatum is 2. You probably have him as a 4 or something like that. And then Paul George is 3. So again, I have 2 players on the same team that start together in Paul George and Kawhi that I have listed at the same position. But in your heart, Dan, isn't Paul George a small forward, and isn't Kawhi, and isn't Jason Tatum?
So I don't mind because you called Jaylen, you had Jaylen Brown you had him as a 2.
Yeah.
So like, that's fine. I'm just, when it comes to Kawhi and PG, like, I just don't get the justification necessarily of like, if we're going to do this and break it down by position, how are they the same position?
Because if it's again, we're talking subjective, like what, other than the fact that, and maybe this is the worst argument to make, that they cannot occupy the same space in a lineup they share together. Like, what about Paul George or Kawhi Leonard says like, that guy's not a 3? Like, aren't they sort of the quintessential, I guess they're combo forwards now, because there's no such thing as a pure 3 anymore. It's
right.
Really, but like, I think like they have guard skills. They can guard, really 2 through 4, some 1s. I just like, there's nothing about them that is not small forwardy, except for the fact that like they can't technically both start at small forward. But like, I don't know, if someone just said, hey, what position is Paul George? Would you say power forward? And say
no, but my point here is more so because, so I'll put my top 3 up on the screen now. Paul George is a small forward for me. I want to make that clear. I don't have Kawhi on this list. And I don't have Tatum on this list either, because I called Jaylen Brown, spoiler alert, is going to be classified as a small forward. When I'm looking at players that are going to be playing so many of their minutes together, I can't list, if we're going to separate it by positions, I understand this is why you don't want to do it. Like, if I'm you, for example, if you're dead set on Kawhi being a 3, well, then Paul George has got to be a 2. And you can get into some of the defensive data, and I'm just like, I don't know, Paul George is guarding mostly guys who would skew towards 3, and Kawhi's on a lot of the bigger forwards. And so it's not, I see your case to have Kawhi as a 3. I just can't get there where it's, that they're not playing. And I think I have one instance where I'm a hypocrite in one of these positions where I have both guys playing the same position because they're staggered so much. But like when Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are just going to be on the court at the same time and we're going to separate this by position. How are they playing the same position then?
Oh,
that's what's tough for me to reconcile.
I totally understand that. Yeah, I have no problem.
I have Paul George as my best small forward because I don't have Tatum or Kawhi on here. Brandon Ingram at number 2. Brandon Ingram's really good. He probably deserved more all-star consideration than he got. There's been some peaks and valleys with him this year. I think he's come a long way over the years as a passer. He is someone that you can trust to, like, yeah, you still kind of want him to take more threes at points, but you can trust him to run, like, caps lock run your offense. He has been better over the past season and a half defensively than I think he was, during his like initial time in New Orleans. The thing I struggle with him, because he has such a high ceiling, are those peaks and valleys where I go through, and sometimes there'll be game stretches where it's, wow, he's like a really tough fit to put into this larger environment. But then I'll watch him, and he is a guy, and we've seen it now in the playoffs a couple times, that you can trust to get in the postseason and get buckets. Butler, he's listed as a 4 at a lot of places, but I looked at like that's because they're calling Jaime Jaquez the 3 or Caleb Martin the 3 and Butler's the 4. I can't get there. And when you look at the defensive matchups, like your argument might be, well, he's more of a shooting guard on defense than he is on, and he does defend a lot of bigger forwards too, but power forward was such a mess already that for me, it was pretty easy to put Butler as the 3 here. And just, I think a lot of people probably would have him normally ahead of PG and Ingram, especially if you're going to factor in the playoff argument. Something's off this year, though. Like, there's just been something's weird going on. Like, the injuries, maybe it's his age, and perhaps it'll be the postseason again, and we'll be sitting here trying to figure out why the Heat are in the NBA Finals, and then come back to this, tell me to fuck off. You people are already finding my reactions to when Jalen Brunson signed with the Knicks and throwing them back at me. Do it. Like, absolutely do it. But Jimmy Butler shooting more threes this year, but there's something more limited about building around him than there is PG. And so if you want to argue Ingram versus Butler, I'm here for it. But this season specifically, I think Ingram's been better, but PG for me this season and for the rest of this year, like, I'm taking him over Butler.
Yeah. I have Butler at 4 just to illustrate. Like
he wasn't a center for you?
No, I have him at both, actually. He's going to reappear each of the next 2 positions. Butler 4 for me. I think you're right. Something feels off, but it's like something always feels off or frequently feels off. And then he's the best player on a finals run. So I'm just not going to put him any lower than that. 5, 6, 7, really 5 through 9. So I also have Brandon Ingram on my list, but it's going to be a minute. He is not.
Oh my
God. But from the next guy.
By the way, sorry to interject here, but like when you really start to dig into the Pelicans' defensive assignments, and I went back and like watched just some possessions of it, you could make a case that Brandon Ingram is a 2 if you want to go by like defense, but he's also like, he can run the offense. So you could make a bunch of different positional cases for Brandon Ingram.
Doesn't Herb Jones kind of mess everything up for the positions if you're focusing on defense for New Orleans? We talked about this with McCollum a little bit. It's just like, I guess Ingram guards some 2s a lot, but that's just because maybe the guy who's starting at the 3 is more dangerous, so Herb Jones guards him.
I mean, it's sort of like the OG effect there, where it's like he just might defend every single position. So
Speaking of, no, he's not. He's on my list. But he's not. So next, I don't love this, but I have Scotty Barnes 5th. And people are going to say he's probably a power forward, but I think the playmaking and the more versatile defense just feels more wingish to me. So I'm going to slot him at 5. I bet he probably is not at this position for you.
I would say I would agree with I don't know what necessarily my rankings would have looked like, but if this was pre-Siakam OG trade, I would have agreed with you that he was more of a 3. But even then, like his defensively guarding a lot of the more bigger forwards, and then now specifically with RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Gary Trent Jr. there, him as a 3 feels like
I'm curious.
It just feels iffy. So if you're basing this on a retrospective for what he was playing a lot of this season, I kind of get it, and I understand the offensive role point where when we say point forward, we're inclined to think 3 rather than 4.
Yeah, I mean he's averaging almost 6 assists, which is more than I think everybody we've.
So you're saying as a power forward, you're not allowed to average.
I'm just trying. Yes, you're not. You cannot do it. It's not permitted. I just think it's sort of it makes the case that he is kind of a wingy perimeter type player. So this year, so every year of his career, except for, so rookie year, 54% of his minutes at the 4. Last year, 60% at the 3. This year, 39% at the 3. 39% technically as a 2, and 20. So he's played the majority of his career minutes as a 3. That's using Basketball Reference, so I'm not going to rely on that as gospel, but it's enough to get me through at least including him
Cleaning
here.
the Glass has him as a 3. I think Dunks in Threes had him as a 3. But when you start to look at his like most frequent defensive matchups, and like that's then incorporating the time he did spend also with OG and Siakam, Julius Randle, Tatum, Tobias Harris, Kawhi, who is a 4 for me. Like, and so like DeMar DeRozan, who I think a lot of people would have in the 4s. So I mean, this is hysterical, by the way. And it's because they've played the Bulls 4 times, but he has spent the 7th most time. Like Nikola Vucevic is the player that he has defended the most. Is number 7 on that list. Isn't that wild?
I'm just not going to penalize the guy for being able to guard up and down.
And look, to your point, the versatility in general. So throw out the offensive role, throw out what we're talking about on defense. You throw it all together, and it's the versality and the malleability is just more synonymous with small forwards than it is power forward. But I get this for sure.
It's more art than science. I'll admit it, how I'm dividing up positions. So why don't you give me your 4 and 5? I'd be shocked if you didn't have my number 6 at either 4 or 5, just based on the positions.
This is actually a good place to like have this discussion because I struggled. I thought I was going to come into this with my 4 and 5 and have these two flipped. And I also wasn't sure, to be fair. I was wondering. So I have Jaylen Brown at number 4, and then I have Mikal Bridges at number 5. So first of all, players from 2 teams that, for me personally, made the positions thing hellfire. Jaylen Brown has a higher assist rate than Mikal Bridges this year. I was prepared to Mikal Bridges' offensive role has changed a little bit. He's not as efficient. I still think he's fantastic. When you look at his defensive assignments and some of their core lineups, I think you can call him a 2, a 3. Definitely can't call him a 4, but like he's done that type of stuff. He was a no-brainer inclusion once I decided he was going to be a small forward. But I came into this prepared. Like the way I went about this is kind of made my list and then thought about it. And so when I started to think about Brown versus Mikal, and then you dig into it like on the sheets rather than what you just remember seeing, I was like, oh, Jaylen Brown's decidedly been better than Mikal Bridges this season. And that's just not, I mean, Jaylen Brown's an all-star and Mikal Bridges wasn't, but that's, I don't know how much that means anecdotally. So I was a little bit surprised that I didn't have these two flip-flopped, is my point. And the assist thing was like, that just shocked me. Like I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, because you think of Brown's real weakness as like the assist to turnover ratio.
There's just more guys to do that. Even though we talk about they could use another ball handler, like you have Drew, you have Tatum, you have Derek White, you have Al Horford. And then it's like in Brooklyn, there's like he has Spencer Dinwiddie and Cam Thomas doesn't pass. And so it's like,
no, I don't know where. I'm trying to think where I would have Brown if I'd called him a small forward. Probably, I probably would have him 5th. I think he'd be ahead of Barnes, but after Butler. And you could make the case that he belongs over Butler probably. So I don't have an issue with that. I mean, Brown's been on multiple deep playoff runs too. Like you get proof of concept there. Bridges is still like we still aren't 100% sure. Like, should Bridges have a bigger creation role because he's kind of floundered after looking so good in limited minutes doing that? Or is he just a really like the most like luxurious 3-and-D guy that there is? Like he's just like so overqualified to do that, but not quite good enough to be more of an initiator.
I think he's on the Chris Middleton level with that, or can get there to where you would want him. And maybe this is too bullish on him. The whole, can he be a number 1? I think that ship has sailed and maybe it was never even docked.
Yeah.
But he could be a 1.5 and certainly a 2.
Yeah. So Bridges is 6 for me, just to alleviate any suspense. And that's, has
Did you have any issue like positionally with him? Like, did you struggle with that at all or no?
No, that was one of the few. I was like, hey, he's a 3. That feels right to me. Because I just think of him in the context of the Suns years where it's like they had a clear 1, a clear 2, a clear 3, and he's the 3. Like that's just how it worked.
Can I actually get to my number 6?
Yeah,
because I think it's going to have to start a discussion about like the rest of our list, and it's almost maybe counterintuitive to how I've done these in the past. I have OG Anunoby.
He's 8 for me, so I have no.
All right, so it's not 2. I have the name. like, so this is the big one that I think I'll throw up my number 7. I have Franz Wagner. And so this is where it got tougher, because do you value OG's defensive versatility and efficiency in a role that is far less complex offensively than Franz Wagner has? Like, we've seen Franz Wagner's efficiency been all over the place this season. He's well under 35% from three. Last time I checked, he was under 31%. So what does it for me with OG? And this is not a Knicks bias. One, I might have made him a 4 if he was still in Toronto. Like, I don't know what I would have done, but he might have been a 2 if he was still in Toronto. With the Knicks, because Randall and a big are on the court almost always when he's playing. And Randall, we know, is injured at the moment. He's been the 3 for them, but he's defending everybody. And so I'm looking at that and I'm like, and he's actually defending everybody. Sometimes it's on the same possession. You dig into the film, you dig into the numbers, and they're like, the defensive metrics are lagging. He's hitting his threes, he's cutting. It's stuff he's done in Toronto, but the Knicks have more space for him to do it in the half court, and they have better initiators because of Jalen Brunson. Even, he had Siakam, but Barnes was still learning. But having Jalen Brunson, and even just like more of these connector type passers, like a Josh Hart, a Dante DiVincenzo, Isaiah Hartenstein, it's all really benefited him. And I look at his defensive dominance, and you can say, okay, Franz Wagner, other players that we'll talk about, yeah, they're doing more with the ball, and that's theoretically harder on offense. This is someone who, and I have called OG Anunoby overrated in the past. So if you're going to tell me you'd rather have OG than Jalen, than Butler, than Mikal Bridges, than Paul George, and those were takes that were out there, not Paul George, to be clear, or Butler, really. I will lampoon against that. But what he does defensively it goes beyond anomalous.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, so I have Franz is on my list too. So my number, so I don't have. If you're worried about OG and Franz being like, oh, I don't know, they're really kind of 4. They're both 3s for me. I think that's totally fine. And you could have put them at 4 if you want. If 4 wasn't so loaded, I think that was part of my thinking too. Is
wait, you wanted to put Franz Wagner at 4?
You could. I mean, you could say
OG.
Either one. You could call either one of them.
Franz Wagner at the 4 when Paolo Banchero exists.
Yeah, but he's like, it's a combo forward, and if you're trying to squeeze him in somewhere, you can. I didn't, but I wouldn't have knocked you if you'd put him at the 4. So
I would have knocked you if you put him at the 4.
Can you guess my 7? Although this is another weird positional
one. Is it? I'm wondering if it's my 8.
I don't know.
Is it DeMar DeRozan?
No, it's Jalen Williams. I don't know why I'm necessarily calling him a 3. And putting him ahead of OG, I think, is a little iffy, but look,
he does more with the ball. I'll give you, he's nowhere near OG defensively.
No, but he's definitely not. But I think the fact that he can guard, 2 through 4 semi-capably, he can be the guy you put the ball in his hands, which you really can't for OG. You can do that with Franz. I think he's by far the most efficient scorer of anyone I'm really considering in this range. 45% from 3 is just ridiculous. He doesn't take as many threes as the rest of these guys. And like team context, like the Thunder don't live and die with him because he's often a 3rd option. But just like the ridiculous efficiency, the like stat stuffing, 5 categories, basically 19, 4, and 5, and gets a steal, gets half a block. He's got the best box plus minus and value over replacement player of anybody we've talked about in the last several spots. That includes, by the way, like Bridges, Ingram, and Anunoby. He's got it on all those guys. So I couldn't put him lower than 7, but I'll readily admit like my, never-ending bias towards him. So I'm trying to think. So you had DeMar at 8. He did not make my list.
So I didn't know he's no longer a shooting guard, and most places are going to have him as a power forward at this point. And defensively, that's basically what he is, but I can't, because of his offensive role, I can't get there. And I know his efficiency has dipped. He's still shooting the hell out of the ball in the clutch. And like, that's got to matter. Mm-hmm. And Chicago doesn't have the best spacing in Bayern's either, excuse me. So you have to kind of appreciate the creativity he's giving you there. And he's just by far and away. And this is what does it for me. To say he's the best passer on the Bulls is not hot take or necessarily impressive, but the fact that you can say it and it's just not a problem, because our issues with the Bulls are not that DeMar DeRozan is their best passer. They go so far beyond that. So that's why I landed with DeMar, and why I kept him out of the 4 is because offensively he's a 3. And that's like kind of your argument with Scotty. So maybe I weighted too much of, I think I factored in more of Scotty's role now, just based off the other players on the court. I will get into my 9 and 10 because I did another, unless you had something to say on DeMar.
No, I think he's a really interesting guy because, like, if all we ever talk about is how shot creation is like the premium NBA skill, and he has it, he absolutely has that, but he is by far, and this is a position that you need defense from, generally speaking, because of the scorers that occupy it. He's by far the worst defensive player
Yeah.
among like anyone we've talked about, and like maybe the next 10 guys we might even consider. So like that just did it for me, and I realize that's contradictory because it is acknowledged that like if you can create offense, that is a signature skill that everyone wants. It's just compared to these other guys and for what the position demands, I think like that I couldn't get past that. So he's in my also considered, but I just didn't have him top 10.
I had him close to dropping one spot for this next guy, but I'm going to ask you, and maybe no, well, who would you rather have for the rest of the season, DeMar DeRozan or Chris Middleton?
Oh man. So Middleton did not make my list either, but it was considered. I think maybe I would rather have DeRozan because I think Middleton's availability is so iffy. He's averaging, what is he averaging, like 13 a game or something? Like it's just he's not the same guy.
The bigger thing is he can still have his nights, and he's definitely getting lost in sort of the new hierarchy. And so I can discount like that drop. He is not the same player he was on defense 2.5 years ago. Yeah. And that's a big deal. So he didn't make my top 10 either. He was 11. My 9 and 10 were Devin Vassell and Jeremy Grant. Devin Vassell, let me start with Jeremy Grant. He's good. He's just on lineup data, he's listed as a 4, but what he does defensively is more 3 stuff. And even the way he plays offense, it's not point forward, but it's a 3. And so he doesn't have, I trust Devin Vassell as a secondary passer more. And that's why I couldn't make a case for Jeremy Grant over DeMar or Franz Wagner. And he's not as good defensively as you would think, but the plasticity on defense, that versatility, that malleability is huge. And the fact that he's still been good this year, despite like, well, okay, we've seen in the past that he enjoys having a prominent offensive role, but he's still hitting almost 50% of his 2-point percentage has plummeted, but he's still hitting over 40% of his threes. And like, he's over 20 points a game, and his true shooting percentage has not dropped off a cliff, even though it's, below league average. It's only by a hair. So I have to respect that. And so because power forward was such a bloodbath for me, I was like, I have the justification to make Grant a 3. And Middleton was my first cut there. And because of the way, I'm sure you have a deeper honorable mentions list, but because of the way my list stacked out, like my first names that were tough to cut were Jaden McDaniels, Trey Murphy. And then to wrap up on Devin Vassell, some people will view him as a 2. You could probably even make the case that he's a 4. He's not as good defensively as he should be. We are finding out. I've seen the discourse that people like, well, I think we understand now that Devin Vassell needs to be the number 3. I still push back against that. It's because you don't have a number 1 right now that you have no idea what Devin Vassell is. And by not having a number 1, what I mean is Victor Wembanyama, this is fully experimental. So the best version of Victor Wembanyama is your number 1. It's not there yet. And so let's see what Wemby looks like as a more efficient self-creator, or if you need someone like because of the makeup of the Spurs or because of Wemby, where no, Wemby needs to be the second best self-creator. And so that will knock Vassell down. I think he can get to a level offensively that we saw from Mikal Bridges after he left the Suns last year, even with the Suns during injuries. And I will die on that hill with them.
No, I think that's a good hill to be on. I hope you're okay on it because I might join you there.
I really appreciate that.
Just like maybe you can have a paper cut on that hill. You don't need to go quite that extreme for
why do you I keep saying die on this hill? Why are you so intent on dying?
I thought of Vassell as, I guess, more of a 2, but
Did he make your list?
No, he's not on my list because I got 2 guys to go that you already have higher that I have to have on here. So
no, I meant I'm surprised if you considered him a 2 that he didn't make it for you.
Oh no, wait. Sorry, I have him as a 3. I don't know why I had his name cut off there. And I also had Trey Murphy's name cut off. He's also considered at the 3. So my 9 and 10 are Brandon Ingram 9, Franz Wagner 10.
You need to explain yourself with Brandon Ingram.
Yeah. So for me, basically, he's not as good defensively as like, say, OG or Bridges or Barnes or really almost anybody that's above him. Probably better than Jalen Williams or close to it. the fact that he just still doesn't shoot as many threes as I'd like him to. I got to pull back up my comparison page here. 35% from three, and he shoots, where is he? 3.8 3-point attempts per game. Like, that's just not enough. If I'm going to knock Jalen Williams for 3.2, but he's shooting 45%, like 10% better than Ingram, offensively, I think you could make the case that Williams is a better offensive player. And the rest of these guys are better defensively. Wagner's a little bit it's hard. I wanted Wagner to be higher, but he's shooting like 30% from three. And I don't know that we have enough of a sample size over his career to say that, like, oh, he's going to be
what I should have had the courage to do, which was probably bump him below like DeMar and Vassell at least. Obviously, they didn't make your list, but you put him where I feel like I'm betting a lot on like the rest of this season a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think you're probably more, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that you're more accurate here than I am, to be honest.
Well, I mean, Franz is 22, and you're comparing him to like Bridges is 27, Ingram 26, OG 26. These are their Basketball Reference years. I'm not sure when exactly their birthdays are, but like, if you're banking on the rest of the year, like, Franz is the guy, right? Because he's got the most upside, and he's playing, at least from a scoring efficiency standpoint, like below what he has done in the past. So I think the upside is for sure there. I don't have a lot else to say. They're both really good players. Ingram to me doesn't quite have the volume efficiency combo on offense to justify, like, would you say Ingram is a break-even defender at this point, or is that still putting it too rosily?
No, I don't think that's putting it too rosily at all. I mean, and he's insulated too. I think they do a good job of insulating CJ McCollum more, but Ingram can be insulated as well. And that's a lot of that is, well, you have Trey Murphy, you have Herb Jones, and then like, they're not going to do the big man stuff. So it's like, it's harder to insulate Zion than it is Ingram or CJ McCollum is my point.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who you haven't mentioned as like a honorable mention that I have here. You said Murphy, you included Vassell. Oh, Jeremy Grant I don't have here because I just had him as a 4, so not considered here. Keegan Murray, just the thought. Cam Johnson is probably more of a 4. Thought about him for a little bit. MPJ, kind of a 3-4. Thought about him a little bit. DeRozan's there for me. Middleton. I think we've covered, unless you have more names that didn't make it. I think we've gotten like almost 20 deep here. So
so I'll recap my top 10 since we just alternate towards the end of these now. I had Paul George at 1, and I'm wondering actually very quickly if anyone skips to the end of the video or the pod, and our listeners who listen on the podcast player, I don't think will skip to the end. But if someone's on YouTube and just scrolls to the end of this and sees my list where there's no Kawhi or Tatum, I wonder if there'll actually be people who are like, how could you not rank Jason Tatum or something?
No one could. There's no possible world where someone would assume you just don't think Tatum is a top 10 small forward if you think he's a small forward.
I'm hoping. I'm just, I'm always, but I have Paul George 1, Brandon Ingram 2, because you're a hater, Jimmy Butler 3, Jaylen Brown 4, Mikal Bridges 5, OG Anunoby 6, Franz Wagner 7, DeMar DeRozan 8, Devin Vassell 9, Jeremy Grant 10.
Okay. And again, most of our differences are just in how we split positions here. So this will feel more.
You hate Brandon Ingram.
And it is. And I hate Brandon Ingram, I guess. Kawhi 1, Jason Tatum 2, Paul George 3, Jimmy Butler 4, Scotty Barnes 5, Mikal Bridges 6, Jalen Williams 7, OG 8, Ingram 9, and Franz Wagner 10. So,
I guess in the context of your list, Ingram at 9 isn't egregious. Having him below, I think Mikal, J-Dub, and OG is, and even like that's, I mean, there's still, I probably would have him probably behind Butler. Although I had him ahead of Butler. So but like you can make the case more easily. Like he should be 5. I'm surprised you have him many. I'd give you Scotty or Mikal. Like I'll give you one of those dudes. But
well, I did say 5 through 9 is like I'm open to arguments on all those within that range. But like if we're doing tiers, 5 through 9 would be a tier for me.
And would your tier be, are Kawhi and Tatum and PG, are they a tier, or is Butler in that? You think 1 through 4 is your tier?
I think maybe Kawhi and Tatum are in their own, and then maybe PG and Butler belong in one by themselves. It feels like there's some dividing lines, but so I have 10 players here, and I'm trying to split them into like 6 tiers. So I don't know how else.
Yeah, I think my top tier is like the PG, Ingram, Butler, where if that's my basis for using small forwards, you could probably rank those guys in any order, and I wouldn't give you a ton of pushback. I just think PG's been.
I think PG's pretty clearly above Ingram and Butler. Although Butler's been there. If you're
Like that is, I know that we're ranking them for the rest of the season. The postseason is part of that. I don't know what the Miami Heat are going to look at, but it's just like we have all this evidence that Jimmy Butler and the Heat are just going to flip this switch in the postseason, and yet we're dismissing it. Do you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, thanks everybody for checking out the small forward edition of our player rankings. Let us know what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with, how disrespectful I was to Brandon Ingram. Sorry, it's a tough position. As always,
fans.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm trying to think. I might offend him with my Zion ranking too. And I didn't really give McCollum a lot of love, so I may not be.
Yeah, and we know Kings fans are going to hate you. At least, hopefully, Nuggets fans, some of them got a little mad at me already, but hopefully we're back in their good graces because you called KCP the first.
Yeah, I'm good there. I also said De'Aaron Fox should have been an all-star. I feel very strongly about that. How
was he not? Like, get Cat off there. And if you were going to put another Timberwolf, it should have been Rudy Gobert. What are we doing?
Get out of my brain. That is exactly what I think. So follow us on the socials at HardwoodKnocks. If you want to get involved in our Discord or get some merch, links for that YouTube and podcast description. Wherever you get your podcast, make sure you're giving us 5 stars, positive reviews, good ratings. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Shout out Frank Ntilikina, and apologies to Jared Allen.